Hello, welcome. So, the recent update for World of Tanks 1.5 in theory nerfed, in theory rebalanced Arty, according to them. You don't see them talking about nerfs, really. But it basically nerfed German Arty, buffed Object 261, which is Russian, so it's perfectly normal. And they also, in theory, nerfed Conquer Gun Carrier. In theory, because in practice, that's not exactly what happened. So they nerfed the shell velocity, but unfortunately, shell velocity is a detail that you can't find in this game anymore. Looking at any normal tank and searching for shell velocity, it's pointless because you won't find that information anywhere. And when they nerfed the shell velocity of the CGC, apparently it also reduced the range. It was 1,000 meters, and now it's 100 or 120. The thing is, the way the shell arc, the ballistics of artillery work in World of Tanks, it's pretty much broken. It doesn't work very well. So what happened is that even though it reduced the range, the shell arc itself remains the same. Meaning that now you can get the same shell arc at 800 meters that you would get at 1,000 meters. And that's the best shell arc you can get. And it's actually something that the vast majority of players in this game completely ignore. If and to some that is a nerf. That is a nerf to the CGC, the fact that it has reduced range. But if the limited range of the CGC was a limitation, then it would perform worse in grand battles, for example. Because it's a huge map, every other RT gets 1,300 meters of range, and CGC only gets 1,300 meters less. So this nerf to the CGC, I would say it is indeed a nerf for grand battles, but not for random battles. It's not for random battles because in a lot of maps you don't get enough range to use that shell arc, the maximum range. You want to be shooting everything at the maximum range because that's when the dispersion becomes roundish. That's where you become more accurate. The more range you put between you and the target, the more accurate you become. Now, this might not make much sense, but it's true, because when you're shooting at something at close range, your accuracy gets stretched out along the terrain. If a shell lands short or lands too far, you can completely miss the target, and by miss I mean no splash whatsoever. But at max range, even a T92, the shell arc, the dispersion becomes much more roundish. If you play Arty, one thing you can notice, and that tells you there is some broken mechanic in the artillery ballistics. It's the fact that when you reach maximum range, you no longer have accuracy. Instead, you have a straight line. It becomes a stretched straight line, meaning every shell it's gonna land inside that line, which increases your accuracy significantly. So if you're playing Arty and you're not trying to shoot to keep targets at the maximum range, then you don't know how to fucking play Arty. And it's really fucking easy to play Arty, honestly. So in grand battles, if the CGC's limited range was in fact a limitation, then I wouldn't have the highest average damage in grand battles with it. It's close to 4,000, while with the T92 gets 3.8 thousand, and the others they have 3.6, 3.5, and a pathetic 2.8 with a bad chat. And while this is a small sample of battles, I think it's somewhat consistent, except with the Getsutswagen. I even flipped my arty at least one game. There is still a lot of influence of luck or lack of luck, but I think it serves to show what I'm trying to tell you, is that the CGC, with its amazing shell arc, if you don't just stand still between reloads and you actually move, the range is not a problem whatsoever, because you're going to be able to shoot pretty much everywhere if you keep the targets between 800 and 1000 meters. And currently in random games you only need to keep them between 600 and 800 meters. So you're going to be able, you still have the same shell arc, so you're going to be able to shoot targets behind cover, where previously you would have a much harder time doing so. And the best the shell arc, the more the shell comes from the top, the higher the probability there is you will penetrate the roof. So if you miss shots, it's not necessarily because of RNG, because that's what you want to do when playing art. You want to reduce the influence of RNG on your shots as much as possible. The only shots that you should miss are the ones that are clearly your fault because of bad timing, etc. Anyway, the CGC, it's one of the bugs, and according to Wargaming, it's indeed an unintended bug. It's funny because it's something that was immediately noticed, but so much testing and super testing and all of that, and no one noticed that. And fixing these things should be super easy. It's just adjusting of some values. Another bug, it's with the new features of the premium account. You get this manageable bonus experience now, which you can apply 5 times a day to a victory. Now, as for me, it's a bug, but when you win, and if you have accelerated crew training and you apply it, the extra experience still accumulates on the tank, like you didn't have accelerated crew training. Another bug, which some might not think it is a bug, but is that it says here that you can only exclude maps from random battles of the standard battle type. Meaning that, for example, I have Empire's Border excluded, but if I turn on Encounter, I will get it. It's excluded, but I will end up in Empire's Border. If this isn't a bug, then what is it? I mean, if I cannot, it doesn't matter if I exclude the map. I'm gonna be forced to if I really don't want to play it, then I can't play any encounter map whatsoever, or assault map. If it's an assault map that a map that has assault mode. This is a bug. It has to be. It makes no sense that you wouldn't also exclude that map from encounter and assault. Anyway, there is one other bug. The other bug has to do with the Swedish mediums. And looking at in-game, you can't find it because it has to do with shell velocity. And looking anywhere in-game, you can't find it because Wargaming does not show you such, at least I think in the past they used to show, but currently they don't. I can't find it anywhere. The information about the shell velocity, it's like it has these details that they should be perfectly visible for everyone. You shouldn't need external aids to see them, but specs, damage, penetration and damage. Where's the shell velocity? At least the ag explosive has the burst ready. So I'm gonna go to tanks GG and I'm gonna show you. So the new Swedish medium gets from the let-go from the start gets a weird gun, because this gun is obviously supposed to penetrate a lot more, because 1,400 meters per second on an EPCR, you're not gonna penetrate so little. But this is for balance reasons, so it's fine. But still, you should at least reduce the muzzle velocity. Just saying. If you choose the gold ammo, you get even more muzzle velocity. You get 1,560. And then you go and check the tier 9. And the tier 9 gets, it's the same gun, it's the Stridsvagn Cannon L45. I probably didn't say that properly. Which is the gun of the previous tank, and gets, it's the same gun, but with a longer barrel. A longer barrel means the shell leaves the barrel at more muzzle velocity, because it gets more acceleration, it gets more time to accelerate. In the very moment it leaves the barrel, the speed of the shell starts to decrease, because what was propelling it just disperses. But not according to Wargaming. According to Wargaming, you get an L45 gun, and it's the same shells. It's a 61 and the 66. These Bs, this is Wargaming's invention. They just take a B out of their asshole or something, and they just stick it in there just to differentiate the guns. So in the L45 you get more muzzle velocity than on the L51, which is a shorter gun, and there's no difference between shells in muzzle velocity. It's the same. And then you pick the L45 and you get 1,400 meters per second almost, and you get 1,560 with gold ammo. Why? Well, I immediately noticed this, but apparently the people who are being paid to do this, which is just the adjustment of some values for balance reasons, for consistency reasons, they just, I don't know, they are either incompetent or they just don't care, because the game is becoming more and more just a fucking world of toy tanks, because they pay very little respect to the vehicles that they are introducing into the game. They pay less and less respect to those vehicles. Anyway, it's bullshit.